Chapter 978, Shameful means at this time, purple vines continued to appear on his hand. As the purple vines soared into the sky, the sun was shielded from the purple vines, casting a big shadow on the city wall. It was like a giant purple umbrella, shrouding Zhuge Xiaotian in the shadows. As the sun's rays disappeared, Zhuge Xiaotian's red eyes slowly recovered their clarity, revealing a look of confusion. Lu Zixi also recovered at this time. She looked back at the man in black with a complicated gaze. It took her a long time to recover and say, Zixi used the divine mechanic crossbow just now in a panic. Thanks to the help of Mr. Nangong that Zixi didn't murder the innocent. Zixi is really grateful. It was Nangong Yu who caught the divine mechanic crossbow, and only Nangong Yu could do it. He smiled coldly when he heard Lu Zhixi's words. He didn't even look at her, but he turned and walked to the side of the young man who was checking Zhuge Xiaotian's pulse. He whispered a few words in his ear. The Shiyu's clear and beautiful eyes slightly bent. Her face was full of helpless and disgusted smile. She gently pushed him. Nangong Yu, who was pushed aside, wasn't annoyed at all, but he was looking at Shiyu with tenderness and pampering that could drown people. Lu Zixi clenched her fists, walked up, squatted down and said coldly, Mr. Shi, my treatment has not been completed yet. Are you going to go over me and treat the young city lord directly? He glanced at her with a half-smile. The contempt in her eyes was obvious, making Lu Zhixi's anger surged into her mind. However, after all, she held it back. She cast spiritual power into Zhuge Xiaotian's body as usual. When her spiritual power circulated Xiaotian's body for one round, her eyes widened in shock. She murmured, how is this possible? He is still fine yesterday, how could he suddenly become like this? Senior sister, what's the matter? Ren Shuling was shocked by these incidents just now. After she recovered, she rushed to Lu Zhixi's side immediately with Li Zhenyu. Li Zhenyu gave He a cold look and said in a deep voice, is someone doing tricks behind the scenes? I said earlier that some people will use shameful tricks in the dark if they can't win openly. Li Zhenyu said this very loudly, and the people in Yangon City below heard it. Lu Zixi shook her head slowly and frowned. She raised her voice slightly, I don't know what's going on. When I checked yesterday, the blood of the young city lord was already normal, but his blood has returned normal today. I don't know who did this. Isn't it obvious? Ren Shuling immediately glared at He and said loudly, apart from those who are afraid of losing, who else would do this? Even Lu Zixi said that someone did some petty means. The people below of course believe in it a little more. Many people cast doubtful eyes on He. He was questioned by everyone and did not say much. Instead, she looked at Zhuge Xiaotian, who was sober, and smiled slowly, young city lord, have you eaten after being inspected by Fairy Zixi yesterday? Have you met anyone? Zhuge Xiaotian shook his head without hesitation, I was meditating all the time yesterday, but I felt upset and unable to concentrate. Since yesterday afternoon, I have no appetite, so I have never been eating anything. Chapter 979, Can't Afford to Lose. He looked at Lu Zixi and Li Zhenyu with cold eyes. According to you three said, I did something to the young city lord's illness, but you have also heard that after the young city lord was inspected by Fairy Zixi yesterday, he didn't see anyone or even eat anything. Then can you please tell me, how did I do that? He's words left Li Zhenyu speechless for a while. Ren Shuling said angrily, you're a sinister and vicious person. Who knows if you have used vicious methods that others don't know? What's more, even if you didn't do anything last night, it doesn't mean you didn't do anything before. He couldn't help but chuckle when she heard the words. She said with a mocking face, if I did something before, Fairy Zixi couldn't find out when inspecting. Miss Ren, are you implying that your senior sister's medical skills are just like that? I didn't. Ren Shuling glanced at Lu Zixi with a red face, but she couldn't continue. Lu Zixi said with an unsightly face, Mr. Shi, I just said that the young city lord's illness has relapsed. I don't know what the reason is, and I didn't say that you did it. Why are you so hostile? As she said, she looked at Zhuge Feng and said in a deep voice, City Lord Zhuge, please forgive Zhishi for not completely curing the disease of the young city lord. The disease of the young city lord is really strange. Zhishi needs to go back to consult with my father. I believe that my father will have a complete treatment plan. Zhuge Feng's face was pale looking at his son who looked severely ill, then he looked at Fairy Zhishi speechlessly for a while. However, without waiting for Zhuge Feng to speak, Bai Hu had already taken a step forward. He said with a sneer, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Aren't we doing medical skill competition? Since it is a competition, you should of course participate with your own skill. How can you go back and ask your father for help? Since you wanted to seek help from your father from the beginning, why didn't you say earlier? Isn't this fooling us? Ren Shuling said angrily, what do you mean by this? Am I not making it clear? Bai Hu put his arms around his chest and said with a half-smiled, since Fairy Zhishi can't cure, isn't it our young master's turn? After all, the people of Yangon City are still waiting for the result. The residents of Yangon City underneath looked at each other when they heard the words. The scene became awkwardly quiet. Li Jinyu stepped forward, staring at Zhuge Feng with a fierce gaze and saying coldly, City Lord Zhuge, you have to know that if Zhishi can't cure your son's illness, then no one in this world except her father can cure it. Do you think it is worth to offend Zhishi and the Doctors' Association behind her for just an insignificant boy? Zhuge Feng's face was even uglier. On the one hand, it was the president of the Doctors' Association, on the other, it was the miracle healer who might cure his son's illness. He had seen the method that Shi Yu used to wake Zhuge Xiaotian just now. At this moment, he finally affirmed that it was not Fairy Zhishi who calmed Xiaotian down in the basement that day, but the young miracle healer. Before Zhuge Feng had spoken, Bai Hu had already laughed and said, so you can't afford to lose? You can't even afford to let us try. It turns out that Fairy Zhishi is just fishing for fame and credit. Chapter 980, Copying Treatment Method. Ren Shuling was furious. What are you talking about? You dare to slander my senior sister. Do you think this Shi Yu can cure a patient whom my senior sister can't even cure? Stop dreaming. Li Jinyu was so angry that his body was trembling. Shut your damn mouth. If you dare to insult Zhishi again, I will let you die horribly. Bai Hu sneered, it's really funny. You can do shameless things, but the others can't judge you? At first, Fairy Zhishi used the reason of first come first served to treat the patient first. This is unfair already, but my young master is magnanimous, so he didn't say anything. Now that she can't cure the patient, then it's my young master's turn to treat, am I wrong? Or, what Fairy Zhishi said at the beginning for the sake of the patient was a lie. For the sake of her own face, she doesn't even care about the life and death of the patient? Although Li Jinyu and Ren Shuling kept saying that Lu Zhishi was humiliated before, she did not say too much. But now Bai Hu didn't hold back and criticized Lu Zhishi as a worthless person. Let alone Li Jinyu couldn't bear it. Even Lu Zhishi's pretty face turned pale in anger. She stepped forward and said coldly, when did I say that Mr. Shi is not allowed to cure the young city lord? Bai Hu laughed 3 times when he heard the words. He did not give her a chance to continue speaking. Well, since Fairy Zhishi said so, it means that Fairy Zhishi admits that she can't cure the young city lord. Now it's my young master's turn to show his medical skills. Lu Zhishi was out of words. Her face flushed suddenly, and she felt embarrassed and humiliated. Li Jinyu, as compared to being humiliated himself, felt even more pain and resentful when he saw that Lu Zhishi was humiliated. He originally wanted to say, but he suddenly looked up and met Master Yuehua's cold gaze. Then, Master Yuehua nodded unwillingly. Li Jinyu was overjoyed. He slowly revealed a sneer, Zhishi, since they insist on treating the young city lord, then let them try. However, if something goes wrong and the young city lord suffers irreparable damage, then it has nothing to do with us. He looked at Zhuge Feng and said, I also hope that City Lord Zhuge will not regret his decision later on. Zhuge Feng was taken aback for a moment. He had a hint of an unknown premonition in his heart. However, when he saw Zhuge Xiaotian's miserable appearance now, he gritted his teeth, bowed to He, and said with a sob, Miracle healer Shi, if you really have a way, please save my son. He nodded, then she smiled faintly, now I can start the treatment. City Lord Zhuge, please bring me enough blood-sucking golden silkworms. What? Blood-sucking golden silkworm? The onlookers on the city wall couldn't help but exclaim, isn't this the treatment method Fairy Zhishi has used? Are you going to copy Fairy Zhishi's method? Another person also said, what's a joke? Everyone just saw that this method can't cure the young city lord's disease at all. Ren Shuling even laughed and said, Shiyu, I thought you are so capable. In the end, you are just copying my senior sister's treatment method. Chapter 981, What's the Flaw? He ignored them, but squatted to Zhuge Xiaotian's side, took a bit of his blood with a knife, and then used her spiritual power to feel it. She knew his situation immediately. Zhuge Feng hesitated, Miracle healer Shi, what method are you going to use to treat Xiaotian's disease? Blood-sucking golden silkworm can't cure him at all. You don't need to be suspicious when you decide to use someone. He turned around and looked at Zhuge Feng coldly, and she said in a deep voice, City Lord Zhuge doesn't even understand this principle. When Fairy Zhishi was doing the treatment, would you question him like that? Zhuge Feng shook his whole body, and he subconsciously bowed his head and apologized. After that, he did not dare to delay and quickly asked his subordinates to prepare blood-sucking golden silkworms as soon as possible. The blood-sucking golden silkworms were quickly fetched, and the treatment process was as expected. It was almost exactly the same as Lu Zhishi's. The only difference was probably the medicinal pills that nourished blood. Although Lu Zhishi's Lingxue pill was precious, the blood it could replenish was only 1/3 at most. Therefore, during Lu Zhishi's treatment, she had to go through the process of blood sucking and releasing blood 3 times. It couldn't be finished on the same day, otherwise the patient would not be able to bear it and would die of shock due to excessive blood loss. The medicinal pills that He gave Zhuge Xiaotian were the best quality 4th-grade medicinal pills. Their main function was to nourish blood, but He had just refined them, so she hadn't named them yet. Zhuge Xiaotian's blood almost recovered instantly after taking these medicinal pills. After an hour, the blood on his whole body had been completely replaced. The dense red spots and festers on his face had already healed a lot by now, and Zhuge Xiaotian's eyes were also clear. However, no one would approve of He's behavior. Even on the city wall, many doctors looked at He as if they were looking at a scum stealing other people's things. Li Jinyu and Ren Shuling were even more mocking, sometimes amplifying their voices to explain the ins and outs of the matter to the people of Yangon City below. When Lu Zhishi saw He take back the blood-sucking golden silkworm one by one, all He's actions were exactly the same as her. She finally couldn't help but take a step forward and say gently, Mr. Shi, although I don't mind you stealing from me, we have just witnessed that the effect of this treatment method can only last for 2 days. It can't completely cure the disease. You will only disappoint City Lord Zhuge and young City Lord again. Why would you want to do that? He threw the blood-sucking golden silkworm to the tray in Baihu's hand, then she stood up, slowly looked at the doctors present, and finally turned her gaze on Lu Zhishi. Fairy Zhishi, you keep saying that you know that this is a vampire disease. Then do you know what caused the vampire disease? Lu Zhishi was taken aback. She blurted out, what? The so-called vampire disease is indeed a blood disease. But does Fairy Zhishi think that the cause of the disease can be completely cured by exchanging blood? Lu Zhishi frowned and said in a low voice, since the blood is poisoned, what's wrong with changing his blood? And, Mr. Shi, aren't you doing this too? I followed Fairy Zhishi's method to treat the disease, but there is a fatal flaw in your treatment plan. Some of the doctors listening to the side could not help but say loudly, what is the flaw? Chapter 982, Special Medicinal Pills. Bloodletting can only remove the toxins from the patient's blood for a while, but not the root cause. Once the patient is exposed to the sun, something in his body will convert into toxin again. The disease will only be more serious than the previous one. In fact, patients with porphyria, which was vampire disease, did not just have problem in their blood. It was even more because an element called porphyrin in their body would be converted into a toxin called botulinum toxin when exposed to ultraviolet light. So, Heshi smiled and looked at Lu Jishi with scorching eyes. Fairy Jishi, you have diagnosed the wrong direction from the beginning. You know that the problem comes from blood, but have you ever wondered what its source is? The most important treatment for vampire disease is not to exchange blood, but to eradicate the source of the young city lord's disease that will turn into toxins when exposed to sunlight. Lu Jishi originally wanted to laugh. How can there be such a disease in the world? Whenever it is exposed to the sun, it will be converted into toxins in the blood. Not to mention her, even her father Lu Shuyang had never heard of it. She opened her mouth slightly, but the words were stuck in her throat. Because she met Shi Yu's calm, wise, and arrogant eyes. Those eyes were supported by an incomparable strong self-confidence. Lu Jishi had only seen this look from her father. Even she was often not confident in her medical skills most of the time. Suddenly a strong anxiety and panic rose in her heart. Could it be that what she said is true? However, before Lu Jishi could speak, Ren Shuling had already yelled, "Nonsense! Why have I never heard of this kind of illness in the world? Then you tell us, how can you treat it?" "Humph, who doesn't know how to talk big?" Dr. Chen, who cared most about how to treat this disease, was more anxious than anyone else. He couldn't help but stepped forward and said, "Mr. Shi, you said that you want to eradicate the source of the disease in the young city lord. May I ask what kind of disease it is? How to eradicate it?" Heshi certainly knew that the source of Zhuge Xiaotian's body was the porphyrin that would be affected by ultraviolet radiation, but she couldn't explain clearly to these ancient people. In addition to the blood exchange, the only step she did more than Lu Jishi was to expose the patient to sunlight when the medicinal pills were taking effect. It was to let the porphyrin in the patient's body combine with the iron element, so that it could be synthesized into hemoglobin normally. This seemingly simple step was actually the most important step. Heshi smiled slightly, and she suddenly raised her voice. The way to completely cure this vampire disease is actually very simple. Just let the young city lord take a special kind of medicinal pill before exposing him to the sun. But she paused, turned her wrist, and then saw a gray pill refining cauldron appear on the city wall. Heshi looked straight at Master Yuehua and said loudly, "However, I only have the material and pill formula for the medicinal pill, but I don't have the finished product. One of the ingredient of this kind of medicinal pill is the cloud marrow Ganoderma, which is very precious. I only have one portion of it. If the pill refining fails, I can't heal the young city lord's disease for a short time. So, I need someone to refine this pill for me. Master Yuehua, are you willing to do it?" As soon as Heshi said this, hundreds of people below fell into a strange silence. Chapter 983. I don't want to. Master Yuehua stared at the handsome young man not far away, only to feel that there was a raging storm in his heart. It made his eye sockets hot and his body tremble. The people in Yangon City below were even more shocked. The discussion was even more vigorous than when Zhuge Xiaotian's disease relapsed just now. Didn't they say that Master Yuehua can't refine pill anymore? Why did Shi Yu ask him to refine the pill? Shi Yu definitely doesn't know that Master Yuehua can't pill refining at all. The cloud marrow Ganoderma only has one portion. If it fails, isn't that the young city lord's disease can't be cured? Many doctors on the wall were excited when they heard the name cloud marrow Ganoderma. Some doctors even volunteered to do it. "Mr. Shi, Master Yuehua is not incapable of pill refining, but he has not been refining pill for many years. Cloud marrow Ganoderma is so precious, what if he spoils it? Why don't you let me do it? Even Dr. Chen couldn't help asking, Mr. Shi, may I know what grade are the medicinal pill made by Cloud Marrow Ganoderma? He smiled slightly, 4th grade. As soon as she said this, even Master Yuehua's face turned pale. Before his spiritual fire collapsed, he could at most refine the 3rd grade medicinal pills. Besides, those 3rd grade medicinal pills didn't even need precious materials like the Cloud Marrow Ganoderma. Those doctors even shook their heads. With Master Yuehua's level, he will definitely fail in refining this 4th grade medicinal pill. Mr. Shi, you must think twice. Ren Shuling laughed aloud and looked at He with contempt and arrogance. Shiyu, you insist on letting Master Yuehua refine the pill because you hope that he will fail, right? If that happens, you can shirk the responsibilities to Master Yuehua if you fail, am I right? He turned her gaze on Master Yuehua. Her eyes looked gloomy. Master Yuehua, are you willing to bear the stigma of deceiving the world forever? Always letting people point at your back, never lift your head, even getting chased out of Yangon City, deprived of the qualifications to practice medicine. Are you willing to be a loser for the rest of your life? No. I don't want to. Master Yuehua's voice suddenly rose. His body was trembling violently because of exerting too much force. The lost and sad expression in his eyes disappeared, turning into firm and scorching eyes. He clenched his fists and looked at He. Mr. Shi, I'm willing to try to refine the 4th grade medicinal pill. He's face finally showed a slight smile. He walked to Master Yuehua and gave the pill refining materials prepared in the storage ring and the inscribed jade slip for the pill formula to Master Yuehua. After Master Yuehua took the inscribed jade slip and read it, his body trembled abruptly. When he looked at He again, there were already hot tears in his eyes. Miracle Healer Shi, your great kindness, I really don't know how to repay it. If Miracle Healer Shi wants me to do anything, I will agree without hesitation. It turned out that in the inscribed jade slip He gave him, it recorded not only the pill formula for treating Zhuge Xiaotian's disease, but also various pill formulas for treating his Dantian's disease and improving his cultivation and medical skills. As long as he used the medicinal pills and these pill formulas Shiyu gave him, in less than a month, the disease that had plagued him for 10 years would be completely cured. His cultivation would also exceed his past heyday. Chapter 984. Warning. Look, the pill formula Shiyu gave him was something he had never seen in Miluo continent. When someone else had an exclusive secret recipe, they did everything possible to hide it, but Shiyu gave it all to him without hesitation. Such a great kindness, Master Yuehua really didn't know how he could repay it. Although there was still a lot of discussion under the city wall, everyone was full of doubts about Master Yuehua and Shiyu. But the pill refining still started. When a cluster of stable spiritual fire appeared in Master Yuehua's hands and was thrown into the pill refining furnace, all the onlookers underneath widened their eyes. Isn't it said that the Master Yuehua's spiritual power has collapsed, and he can't condense spiritual fire at all? Who is spreading this rumor? Yeah, isn't Master Yuehua condensing spiritual fire now? It is even stronger than the spiritual fire of ordinary doctors. It's no wonder that Shiyu Kid is not confident himself, and he wants Master Yuehua to refine the pill. As the spiritual fire was put in, the spiritual grass and materials were also put in one by one. The scene was completely silent. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see the result of Master Yuehua's pill refining. With the second spiritual grass being put in, Master Yuehua finally picked up the jade-like Cloud Marrow Ganoderma. At this time, his forehead was already covered with beads of sweat, and his face became paler. The moment he picked up the Cloud Marrow Ganoderma, Master Yuehua suddenly met Li Jinyu's cold warning eyes. Li Jinyu looked at Zhuge Feng and Zhuge Xiaotian, as if saying, if you don't follow what I said, you should know how miserable the ending of Zhuge and his son will be. Master Yuehua's body trembled slightly, his eyes had a wave of uncertainty, but he calmed down quickly. He originally thought about framing Shiyu to protect Zhuge Feng's family, but when he came to the door of the west wing of Lanxiang courtyard, he finally gave up on this decision. Because he was a doctor is kind. He really couldn't use medical skills to harm patients and frame his colleagues no matter what the reason was. Now, Shiyu was so kind to him. It was impossible for him to frame Shiyu for his own personal affair, otherwise wouldn't he be less than a human? Thinking of this, Master Yuehua showed a sneer at Li Jinyu, resolutely lowered his head and put Cloud Marrow Ganoderma into the pill furnace. The folding fan in Li Jinyu's angry hand made a creaking sound. He broke the iron-forged fan abruptly. The red light flickered on the pill refining furnace, and the elixir in it was continuously melting and condensing. But Master Yuehua's face became more and more ugly, and his Dantian's spiritual power was slowly drying up. A burst of severe pain came from his Dantian, and his meridians were burnt due to overuse. But Master Yuehua seemed to be totally unaware, staring intently at the refining of medicinal pills in the pill furnace. He even forgot where he was now and who was next to him. More than half an hour passed, and it was still dead silent under the city wall. Everyone looked at the white-haired old man, watching him clearly painful but attentively refining medicinal pills, and they suddenly felt a little hot in their eye sockets and a little sour in their noses. Some martial artists who had survived for a long time seemed to think of the times more than 10 years ago. When the plague that made all the people in Yangon City desperate was rampant, it was the same doctor who refined medicinal pills and took care of the patients without resting. He didn't even care even he had vomited blood. Finally, he found a way to control the plague. Chapter 985, Failed? He was the savior of the entire Yangon City. Suddenly, someone yelled, "Master Yuehua, you will be able to pill refining successfully." "Yes, Master Yuehua, we support you." "Master Yuehua, we did wrong in the past. Whether you can pill refining or not, you are our most respected master." The people of Yangon City under the city wall began to shout one after another, at first a few dozen, and then for some reason, half of them were infected and began to shout non-stop. Zhuge Feng listened to the voice under the city wall, then looked at his friend who was focusing in pill refining. For some reason, he felt hot in his eyes. He quickly wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and continued to wait patiently. The faces of Li Jinyu and the others were getting more and more gloomy. Ren Shuling gritted her teeth and said, "What? Isn't he just a fourth-rank doctor? Why are these people making a commotion?" "Sister, don't worry, he will not succeed in pill refining. With his spiritual fire, refining the third-grade medicinal pills is already hard, let alone the fourth-grade medicinal pills. When he fails, let's see if those people down there still support Master Yuehua." Lu Jishi was also looking in Master Yuehua's direction, but there was no expression on her face when she heard that. She said in a low and panicked tone, "But, what if he succeeds in refining? Shiyu is so confident. Maybe, he can really succeed in refining?" The low voice was gentle and sweet, but it described an unspeakable helplessness. This was the first time Li Jinyu had felt Lu Jishi's fragility and fear. For a while, he only felt that the blood in his whole body was surging up. He was willing if he was going to die for her. He gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Jishi, rest assured, I will never let him succeed." Li Jinyu's eyes were gloomy and cold, staring in the direction of Master Yuehua. At this time, Master Yuehua's body was dripping with cold sweat, his face was even player, but there was hope in his eyes. Almost. He already felt the medicinal effect of the Cloud Marrow Ganoderma enveloping other medicinal pills. They were about to merge with each other and condense into pills. He would soon be able to successfully refine the pill. This was the fourth-grade medicinal pill, and its main material was the Cloud Marrow Ganoderma. Just as Master Yuehua was happily looking forward to it, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back. "Ah!" A short scream, interrupting him from channeling spiritual power. Master Yuehua fell to the ground because of the pain, but he didn't care about his pain at all. and his eyes widened suddenly, looking at the gray pill cauldron with a frightened expression. Because of the interruption of the spiritual power supply, the pill cauldron that was originally flashing red suddenly dimmed, and the materials that had already been condensed also collapsed. A curl of black smoke rose above the pill cauldron. Pill refining has failed? Master Yuehua was trembling all over. He suddenly turned his head, staring fiercely in Li Jinyu's direction, and let out a stern shout, "You, it's you. You just sneak attacked me, didn't you? You. How can you do this? How can you do this? That is the only cloud marrow Ganoderma. How can you be so vicious?" There was a weird silence in the audience. Immediately afterward, there was an uproar under the city wall. Some people, who had just been immersed in the emotions, couldn't even believe their eyes now. The pill refining actually failed. Chapter 986. No evidence. However, as the black smoke rose up from the pill cauldron, there was no strong medicinal fragrance spreading. Obviously, the pill refining did fail. However, what did Master Yuehua's words mean? Just now he was going well in refining the pill, but he suddenly cried out and fell to the ground. Was it because Li Jinyu attacked him? However, Li Jinyu looked calm with his hands behind. He said coldly, "Master Yuehua, what are you talking about? I don't understand you." Master Yuehua trembled all over, trying to support himself up from the ground. However, he had exhausted all spiritual power just now, and he was now injured on his back. He couldn't get up no matter how. A line of tears fell from his red pupils. He stared at Li Jinyu fiercely and shouted, "Li Jinyu, when I almost finished refining the pill, I felt someone attacked me, causing my spiritual power input to be interrupted. It was just you. You're afraid that if I succeed in pill refining, Fairy Jishi will lose to Shiyu. You despicable villain. Yesterday you threatened me to let me do something on Shiyu's medicinal pills so that Fairy Jishi can win. The person who attacked me must be you too." "What? Threatening Master Yuehua to let him do something on Shiyu's medicinal pills? What did it mean?" There was a commotion in the audience, but Li Jinyu was very calm. He just stared at Master Yuehua coldly. "You can't simply frame someone. Master Yuehua, you are a respected doctor in Yangon City. Don't you know that framing someone casually is morally wrong? You said that I threatened you and I attacked you, then do you have the evidence?" Master Yuehua took out the medicinal powder that Li Jinyu gave him yesterday. "This is what you gave me yesterday and asked me to put into Shiyu's medicinal pills so that even if he has a cure for the young city lord, he will eventually lose because of this medicinal powder." "Ha ha ha ha." Li Jinyu laughed. "Master Yuehua, you don't think you can say that I gave you this by taking out a bottle of powder, right? Is my name written on the powder or it is engraved with my Yunlan sex badge? Does Master Yuehua think that anyone would believe in your nonsense? You." Master Yuehua was speechless for a while. His body was trembling violently with anger and regret. Li Jinyu was even more proud, and he sneered, "Master Yuehua, you are not good enough, which caused the pill refining to fail, but now you are blaming me? Did Shiyu instruct you to do this? He gave you a pill formula that can't refine pill at all. He even claimed that it can cure the young city lord's disease. In fact, he just wants to deceive everyone and not lose the competition." There was another silence in the audience. Master Yuehua and Li Jinyu insisted on different opinions, but neither side had any evidence. Moreover, the pill refining had failed, and there was only one portion of the cloud marrow Ganoderma. Even if Shiyu wanted to prove whether he could cure the young city lord, he couldn't do so now. The matter had entered a stalemate. At this moment, Heshi, who had been watching silently, took a step forward, came to the cauldron, and slowly said, "Elderly, you said I can't prove that I can cure the young city lord's disease? Isn't it?" Li Jinyu sneered at him. His eyes were full of mockery. "Cloud marrow Ganoderma only has a unique portion. You can find another one either in a short time. Now that the pill refining fails, how can you prove that you can cure the young city lord? Chapter 987, Going Crazy? Hashi smiled slightly. Because of such a smile, Hashi's face looked more fascinating. Who told you that the pill refining failed? What are you talking about? Li Jinyu was taken aback, then he laughed. Shiyu, you can't even judge whether the pill refining has failed or not. The spiritual power supply is interrupted before the medicinal pills condense, so how is this not a failure? Hashi raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a chuckle, Oh? Really? Then, keep your eyes open and take a good look at what is called pill refining. As soon as the sentence ended, a golden red fire suddenly condensed from her fingertip. Golden red. Golden red. It is the golden red fire? Before the people underneath hadn't responded, the doctors on the wall had already widened their eyes with a look of horror. Lu Jishi even exclaimed, How is this possible? The golden red spiritual fire is a pure flame that only martial artists above the nascent soul stage can condense with their own Dantian fire. Even my father, Lu Shuyang, the president of the Doctors' Association, has just purified the purity of spiritual fire to such a degree in the past 10 years. How old is this Shiyu? His cultivation seems to be the foundation establishment stage. Why? Why can he condense the golden red spiritual fire? Hashi didn't care about the reactions of the people on the city wall at all. The spiritual fire was sent lightly into the pill refining cauldron. The pill refining cauldron was quickly relit with a golden red light. But it was totally different from the exclamation of everyone when the spiritual fire appeared just now. At this moment, everyone watching Hashi's actions couldn't help shaking their heads. How could it be possible to recondense the medicinal pills that have failed to condense? Such a thing has never happened in the Miluo continent before. How can it be successful? Ren Shuling even said with a smile in Lu Jishi's ear, Senior sister, is this kid going crazy? He want to recondense the failed materials again. He is simply dreaming. Lu Jishi smiled slightly and did not speak. Although she still felt sullen seeing the golden red fire, she would never believe that medicinal pills that had failed to condense could be refined again. This was absolutely impossible. However, as the time passed, the flame in the cauldron became brighter and brighter. The black smoke that was still wafting away disappeared without a trace, and it was replaced by a vague scent of medicinal fragrance. The medicinal fragrance had already dispersed before the pill was condensed, and it gave an indescribable refreshing feeling to those who smelled it. The doctors on the city wall who had just laughed at Hashi for bragging gradually lost their composures. Dr. Chen took a step closer, sniffed it hard, and tremblingly said, How can this medicinal fragrance be so strong? When I refined the 5th grade medicinal pills, it didn't have such a strong and pure medicinal fragrance too. He couldn't help but tiptoed and glanced into the pill cauldron, then he released the doctor's unique divine sense to explore. He immediately blurted out in shock, It's condensing, the pills are starting to condense. How can this be? As soon as Dr. Chen said this, everyone on the city wall was shocked, and then there was a commotion. Could it be possible that failed medicine can really be recondensed into pills? But, how is this possible? At the moment of failing, the spiritual power of the medicinal pills should have disappeared, right? Chapter 988, Why does it matter to me? If it is really successful, how strong should she use pill refining ability be? At least, he must have a quasi-master level, right? What's a joke? You find a pill refiner of the quasi-teacher level and let him refine the discarded residue into medicinal pills. Even a pill refiner of the grandmaster level can't do it. No, it's impossible, right? How can it be possible to recondense the failed medicine into medicinal pills? The doctors were in a mess because what Hashi had completely subverted their knowledge. Lu Jishi's face turned from red to white, then from white to green. A dark light was flickering in her eyes. She had a kind of fear and panic that she herself couldn't explain. Seeing Lu Zhixi's pale face, Li Jinyu only felt a pain in his heart. He was full of pity for Lu Zhixi and hatred for Shiyu. He gritted his teeth and couldn't help but once again condense a trace of sword chi on his fingertip, then he launched it at Heshi's back silently. No matter how good Shiyu is in refining pain, he is just a low-rank martial artist of the Foundation establishment stage. As long as my sword chi hits him, it will definitely interrupt his pill refining. When the time comes, he will fail twice. I don't believe that this person can condense the waste into medicinal pills again. Thinking of this, Li Jinyu's eyes showed a smug grin. However, before the grin in his eyes spread to his face, he suddenly met a pair of cold and deep eyes. A man in a black brocade robe standing behind Heshi at this time. He had a handsome face that would fascinate all women, but there was a cold bloodthirsty smile on his face now. Li Jinyu was suddenly startled. When he launched the sword chi, there was clearly no one standing behind Shiyu. When did the man in black appear? Immediately afterward, Li Jinyu felt a sharp pain in his chest. He couldn't help but let out a stern scream, and his body was pushed back uncontrollably, hitting the city wall hard. Li Jinyu spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, moaning in pain. Ren Shuling and Lu Zhixi only reacted now and rushed toward him. Cousin. What happens to you? Jinyu, are you okay? Li Jinyu felt better under the treatment of Lu Zhixi's spiritual power. He looked at Nan Gongyu with fear and resentment. It's him who attacked me. Both Lu Zhixi and Ren Shuling followed his gaze, and they soon met Nan Gongyu's cold smile as if looking at a clown. Lu Zhixi only felt suffocating like being choked by someone. She had lost her sanity as she stood up abruptly. Nan Gongyu, what is your cultivation? What is your identity? How can you be so shameless, bullying people whose cultivation is so much lower than yours? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the world? Nan Gongyu sneered, then he slowly said, why does the world matter to me? I only know that if anyone dares to hurt Shiyu in front of me, I will make him pay thousands of times back. Lu Zhixi's pupils shrank suddenly, and she clenched her fists. She didn't even notice the nails sinking into the palms. Before Lu Zhixi could speak, the little golden dragon who flew out had already sneered and said, some people have tried to plot against others, but this time they hit the wall hard and got retaliated. They actually dare to blame the others shamelessly too. Chapter 989, Wasn't it too much? Little Egg immediately agreed, and he pointed at Li Jinyu and shouted, you shameless villain, you were the one who attacked Grandpa Yuehua just now. I saw it all. Now that my daddy taught you a lesson, you deserve it. Mo Xiaodu also clapped her hands and laughed, yeah. Last time, this bad guy even wanted to bite me with a poisonous snake. He is so bad. She also pointed at Fairy Zhixi, this big sister is pretty and beautiful, but she is definitely not a good person if she mixes with this kind of bad guy. These few people and spiritual pets spoke without scruples, but their voices were loud, so that everyone under the city wall could hear them clearly. The people below burst into rage. Could it be that elderly really attacked Master Yuehua just now? Isn't that too much? Didn't Master Yuehua look really strange just now? He didn't look like he was lack of spiritual power at all. It should be right. Li Jinyu is Yunlan's sect's sword-holding elder. He is so famous. How could he do such a thing? If he really did it, isn't Fairy Zhixi, who mixes with this kind of person, also? Lu Zhixi's face turned extremely pale as she listened to the discussion from everyone below. She gritted her teeth and said, Shiyu, I know you did so much just because you want to beat me and try to be famous with my reputation so that everyone will notice you. Now, you have won, you did it. Even if you can't cure the young city lord, you now have huge reputation already. But why do you still want to drag the others down? Is Lu Zhixi not enough? You even have to step on Master Yuehua, Shuling and Jinyu to get your reputation. Don't you think you are too much? Lu Zhishi's remarks were extremely serious. Her words contained deep resentment and grievance. The people who were talking about Li Jinyu suddenly calmed down, and they looked at Heshi with doubts again. They still had deep respect and admiration for Fairy Zhishi. Therefore, although things were getting weird, now that Fairy Zhishi had spoken, they still somehow believed in her. However, Heshi turned a deaf ear to Lu Zhishi's words. Because the pill refining had reached the most critical moment, the strong medicinal fragrance spread on the city wall along with the mellow spiritual power, and the cover above the pill cauldron also made a buzzing sound. Suddenly, the pill cauldron's cover was bounced away with a bang, and it fell to the ground with a harsh sound. Little Egg usually used this gray pill cauldron to refine pills. Now seeing the cover was bounced away, the little guy suddenly felt distressed. He rushed to pick up the cover and put it back into the void. But no one would notice Little Egg's behavior at all. Everyone couldn't help taking a step forward, looking into the pill cauldron. According to the normal pill refining process, the air holes on the top of the pill cauldron would emit a strong medicinal fragrance and buzz, but the cover would not be bounced away. Could it be that the process of refining the waste residues into medicinal pills failed in the end? Master Yuehua almost jumped onto the pill cauldron, and he widened his eyes and looked into the pill cauldron with a trembling body. Then, his eyes widened in disbelief. What appeared in front of him was not a batch of waste residues nor a batch of the 4th-grade medicinal pills that the normal doctor usually refined. Chapter 990. Only chance. What appeared in front of him were dozens of 4th-grade medicinal pills. The total was 80. How can this be? How can there be 80 4th-grade medicinal pills in one batch? 20 is usually the limit. How come there are so many? As if in response to Master Yuehua's thoughts, other doctors' exclamations soon came into his ears. This should at least have 70 to 80 medicinal pills, right? Heshi on the side listened to their screams one after another, but she couldn't help letting out a sigh. Refining the waste residues into medicinal pills is indeed flawed. Not only the pills are reduced by half, but the color of these medicinal pills is still a little behind the best quality pill. It is only slightly better than those that Little Egg refined. The doctors on the wall were stunned, looking at Heshi as if they were looking at a monster. If they were told before today that someone could recondense the failed waste residues into medicinal pills, they would never believe it. If they were told that someone could refine 80 4th-grade medicinal pills in one refine, they wouldn't believe in it at all. However, now the truth was right in front of them. Every action of Shiyu was done under their eyes, so there was no way that they were deceived. The doctors of Yangon City no longer dared to look down on this young doctor who was only 17 years old. They even looked at her with respect. Heshi didn't care about them. Instead, she took 3 medicinal pills and came to Zhuge Xiaotian. She said in a light voice, "Take these 3 medicinal pills and meditate for half an hour, then you won't be afraid of the sun anymore. There won't be botulinum toxin in your body anymore." Zhuge Xiaotian stretched out his hands that still had some red spots, took over the medicinal pills tremblingly, and said after a long time, "Miracle healer Shi, what kind of medicinal pills are these? After I take them, I really can be a normal person?" Zhuge Xiaotian's voice was slightly hoarse and trembling. He clearly remembered the scene where he had just gone mad on the city wall and turned into a vampire monster. And everyone in Yangon City saw this. They regarded him as a terrifying and ugly monster. Now even the guards on the city wall glanced at him from time to time and hurried away. Their expressions were full of fear and disgust. Zhuge Xiaotian thought at the time that his life was over. Even if he was cured in the future, the people of Yangon City could no longer treat him as a normal person. Everyone would associate him with the terrifying monster. However, at the moment of his despair, the boy named Shiyu gave him the only chance. Zhuge Xiaotian felt that his ears still seemed to hear Heshi's words. When Heshi treated him, she said softly in his ear, "Don't worry, they are afraid of you because of the unknown and fear. As long as we prove that you just got an illness that everyone could have, and you can be treated, they will treat you as a normal person again. The death and despair in Zhuge Xiaotian's eyes, because of these sentences, were once again ignited by hope. So when the scene just happened, he waited quietly, waiting for the handsome boy in front to turn him into a normal person. He frowned and said, "This medicine is researched by me in conjunction with the vampire disease. I haven't thought of its name yet, but since its main material is cloud marrow Ganoderma, then I'll call it cloud marrow pill." Chapter 991, More Than Believing in Her? What? The pill formula that you researched? Dr. Chen, who was the nearest, could not help but shout, "Shi! Mr. Shi, is this true? You researched this medicinal pill yourself? It's not recorded in any ancient books?" Seeing He nodding, the doctors on the wall looked at each other, each showing a shocked expression. It is not impossible to self-create a pill formula, but at Miluo continent, no one can do that again for hundreds of years. The boy in front is so young, how did he do it? Lu Zhishi frowned and couldn't help taking a step forward and said, "Mr. Shi, creating a pill formula is not a trifle. If you are not careful, you will let your patients suffer severe damage after taking the pill. Are you sure that you researched this pill formula yourself?" As she said, she softly persuaded, "Young city lord, Zhishi didn't want to slander Mr. Shi, but the self-made pill formula really has a huge unknown danger. After taking it, it is likely to worsen your illness even more. Please think twice." When Zhuge Xiaotian heard this, his hand that had almost reached his mouth stopped, and he looked at He. He smiled coldly. She stood up slowly with her hands behind her back and said, "You can decide for yourself whether to take the cloud marrow pill. I still have to say that. I'm confident to cure you, but I will never force you." Zhuge Xiaotian's body was slightly startled, and then his hesitant gaze suddenly became firm. He nodded slightly to Lu Zhishi, "Thank you Fairy Zhishi for your concern, but I want to trust miracle healer Shi." With that said, he didn't hesitate anymore and swallowed the 3 medicinal pills into his abdomen at once. Lu Zhishi froze in place, barely keeping calm on her face, but the anger in his heart could not be suppressed like boiling water. What does Zhuge Xiaotian mean? He believes in miracle healer Shi. So, he believes in Shiyu more than me? He is just an ignorant kid who doesn't even reach meridian stage. He has no inheritance, no background. How did he bloom such a dazzling light? Even my own existence is overshadowed by him. After Zhuge Xiaotian swallowed the medicinal pills, he was still a little nervous and sat in place with anxiety. Suddenly, his face changed, and a look of pain appeared on his face. Zhuge Feng had been paying attention to his son's situation. At this time, seeing his face in pain, he couldn't help but anxiously said, "Xiaotian, Xiaotian. What's wrong with you? Is the disease relapsed again? Mr. Shi, what is going on?" Seeing Zhuge Xiaotian's face getting paler and paler, and even his lips showed a green-purple color, Zhuge Feng's tone also became panicky and doubt. Other doctors even shook their heads and said, "See, he is just a young boy. How can he self-create pill formula? It will definitely cause trouble if he eats the pills like this." Ren Shuling smiled even more gloatingly. "Who told you not to listen to my senior sister's advice just now? Now you are taking your own consequences." Lu Zhishi's eyes flashed slightly, but she looked concerned on her face. She stepped forward and said, "City Lord Zhuge, it is better to let me diagnose and treat the young city lord. If there is any problem with the medicinal pills, maybe it is still not too late." Zhuge Feng was taken aback for a moment, then he looked back and forth at Shi Yu and Lu Zhishi, and he almost agreed to it. Suddenly, he saw that his son, who was still in pain, looked calm all of a sudden. He got up, sat down cross-legged and started to channel his spiritual power. Chapter 992, Is he advancing? With the channeling of spiritual power, the painful expression on Zhuge Xiaotian's face slowly disappeared, turning into tranquility and peace. Heshi's eyes flickered slightly, and her fingers moved lightly, and the purple vines that had covered Zhuge Xiaotian from the sky returned to Heshi's body in an instant. In the next instant, the warm but dazzling sunlight shined on Zhuge Xiaotian's face. Ah! Zhuge Feng exclaimed in shock, Mr. Shi, why are you removing the shade? What if Xiaotian's disease relapses? Heshi's voice calmly and firmly interrupted him. City Lord Zhuge, don't you understand? Because of the cloud marrow pill, the current sunshine is not only a harm to the young city lord, but it is the best medicine for him to heal. What? Zhuge Feng was taken aback for a moment, then he looked at Zhuge Xiaotian with his eyes widened. Zhuge Xiaotian not only didn't feel painful being shined by the sun, but a faint light radiated from him immediately. That was the light was due to the overflow of spiritual power. That was a miraculous scene when one's dantian and meridians expanded. Dr. Chen, with the highest level of medical skills, watched for a while, and he suddenly exclaimed in disbelief, Is he advancing? Not only did the old disease not recur due to sunlight, but the wounds and scars on the face healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. More surprisingly, the more the sun, the faster his spiritual power was channeling and the more mellow his spiritual power was. Black spots even secreted on his skin. This was not only curing and advancing, but also a process of cleaning impurities in the meridians and eliminating all toxins in the martial artist. Cloud marrow pill. Cloud marrow pill. Is it really just a cure for the vampire disease? Is it really just a pill formula created by a 17-year-old boy? When the eyes of these doctors once again fell on the dozens of medicinal pills remaining in the pill cauldron, there was already a fanatical light in their eyes. It can help martial artists to advance and remove impurities and toxins in the meridians. Although it still can't cleanse the muscles and replace the marrow, such a medicinal pill is already rare in the world. If I can get one, wouldn't I be able to advance my cultivation and medical skills? The doctors on the city wall were shocked and enthusiastic, and the people under the city wall were so shocked by the continuous scene that they couldn't breathe. Many martial artists who were stuck in the bottleneck period almost lost their minds and flew up the city wall to get the medicinal pills. Some people in Yangon City finally remembered the name of this young miracle healer, Shiyu. Shiyu, could it be? Is he the miracle healer rumored in Yanjing City, Shiyu, the owner of Xingdahal? Oh my god. If it were him, it would be no surprise that such superb medicinal pills can be made. The young city lord is so severe, but he can even advance after taking cloud marrow pill. If I can also get a cloud marrow pill, will I be able to break through the middle stage of the meridian stage? 4th grade cloud marrow pill. After today, this medicinal pill will probably be known throughout the entire Miluo continent. At this time, Zhuge Xiaotian finally finished meditating and slowly opened his eyes. Xiaotian, how do you feel? Zhuge Xiaotian also looked a little dazed. He stood up and touched the sweat bead on his face, and a stench came to his nose. Chapter 993, Full of desire, he quickly condensed water spiritual power to wash his body, then he said hoarsely, Father, I seem to have broken through to the meridian stage, perfect stage. Zhuge Feng was overjoyed as he grabbed his son's hand and inspected with spiritual power. The spiritual power in Zhuge Xiaotian's dantian was really full, it contained more spiritual power than it should be. He had really reached the meridian stage, perfect stage, and he would soon enter the pseudo-core stage of the gold core stage. His son was able to enter the gold core stage at the age of less than 30. Thinking of this, Zhuge Feng's hand trembled. However, after all, he was most concerned about his son's condition. Xiaotian, is your illness really cured? Will it relapse in 2 days? As he said, he looked at Heshi nervously with a face full of enthusiasm. Mr. Shi, can you help Xiaotian diagnose again? He smiled slightly and took a step forward to catch Zhuge Xiaotian's wrist pulse. After diagnosing for a while, she released a little blood with a knife and inspected the blood condition with spiritual power before nodding, saying, "City Lord Zhuge, please rest assured, the young city lord's illness has been completely cured." "Really, really?" Zhuge Feng's voice was hoarse and incoherent due to excitement. "It won't relapse? Can you check it again? Is there anything we need to pay attention to? Does he need to expose to the sun less in the future?" "Father, don't ask any more." Zhuge Xiaotian stretched out his hand and interrupted Zhuge Feng. Afterward, he stretched out his hand to touch the sunlight and slowly said, "Father, I know my body better than anyone else. I'm sure I have healed. Moreover, the sunlight not only does not make me scared and uncomfortable, on the contrary, it is giving me continuous strength." He nodded and said, "In addition to eradicating the source of disease in the young city lord, the cloud marrow pill has another function, which is to absorb the fire energy from the sun for one's own use. It can also broaden the meridians and remove the impurities in the body. It is especially effective for martial artists who have the spiritual root of thunder, fire and gold. Of course, this effect can only be maintained until the medicinal effort of the cloud marrow pill completely disappears, which is only about 24 hours. There was another commotion after hearing Hexi's words. Many people couldn't help but greedily move closer to the open gray cauldron. Even the guards on the wall are no exception. They looked at the dozens of cloud marrow pills with eyes full of desire. Those were the medicinal pills that could let martial artists absorb the fire essence of the sun. Although the effect only lasted for 24 hours, it was already of great benefit to the martial artists. Not to mention, it could also broaden the meridians and remove impurities. Zhuge Xiaotian in front was the best proof of the effect of this kind of medicinal pill. How could they not covet and desire? Among all the people under the wall, the only ones with ugly faces were probably Lu Zhishi, Ren Shuling, and Li Zhenyu. Lu Zhishi looked at the confident and ecstatic expression on Zhuge Xiaotian's face and his normal body under the sun, then her entire heart sank bit by bit. There was never a moment when she wanted to beat a person so much, but she was powerless. She was even trampled into the mud by the other party, but she was unable to resist. But at this time, Zhuge and his son even gave her a fatal blow. Although everyone was coveting the cloud marrow pill, Zhuge Feng only cared about the safety of his son. The failure of Fairy Zhishi's treatment plan just now had eliminated all the trust in his mind. He still felt fearful seeing the sun shine on his son. Chapter 994, Medical Skills Competition Result. He said nervously, "Xiaotian, why don't you go back to the basement now and wait for tomorrow to see if the disease will relapse? What if Miracle Healer Shi's treatment is the same as Fairy Zhishi? What if there are sequelae?" Who knew? Zhuge Xiaotian shook his head firmly. "Father, that's not the same. After Fairy Zhishi treated me, although I can get some sun, the sun does not make me feel close. Even after exposing to the sun for a long time, I felt irritable in my heart. However, Miracle Healer Shi's treatment is different. After he asked me to take the cloud marrow pill, I only felt that sunlight was so comfortable for me. Even the desire for raw meat and blood, which was hidden in my body since childhood, disappeared completely. Father, I know that this time my body is really healed." Zhuge Xiaotian's words were sincere and exciting, but it was like slapping Lu Zhishi's face. What does he mean Miracle Healer Shi's treatment is different? What does he mean his body is really healed this time? Is Zhuge Xiaotian telling all the people in Yangon City that I, Lu Zhishi, lose to Shiyu? Zhuge Feng had always known that Zhuge Xiaotian had liked raw meat more than cooked food since he was a child, and he occasionally liked to eat food cooked with blood from fierce beasts. Now when he heard this, he knew that his son was really healed this time. Under excitement, he couldn't help turning around and bowing deeply toward Heshi. "Miracle Healer Shi, your medical skills have really reached the point of being miraculous. Our Zhuge family is really grateful for your life-saving grace of my son. Before He had spoken yet, Baihu had walked over with his hands folding on his chest. City Lord Zhuge, this nonsense is meaningless. If you affirm my young master's medical skills and confirm that the young city lord has healed, then just declare the results of the competition between my young master and Fairy Zhishi. Zhuge Feng was startled, and he looked at Lu Zhishi with embarrassed eyes. In fact, he really wanted to directly announce the result of the medical skills competition because he was completely convinced with Shiyu's medical skills. However, the treatment results of Lu Zhishi were only announced 3 days later. If he immediately announced Shiyu's treatment results, wouldn't it be a disgrace to Fairy Zhishi? Sure enough, Ren Shuling suddenly jumped out angrily when she heard the words, "Why my senior sister needs to be observed for 3 days when treating a disease, but this kid doesn't need it? Zhuge City Lord, are you looking down on my senior sister?" Baihu sneered, "Someone isn't capable. Blood changing also needed to take 3 days. Don't think that the other is the same as her." Hehe, let's not take about this, just based on the results alone. Didn't Fairy Zhishi lose because she is inferior to my young master in terms of medical skills? How do you want to refute this fact? Baihu only used one sentence to shut Ren Shuling's mouth, making her face flush. Lu Zhishi bit her lower lip with a look of embarrassment and humiliation, but in the end, she lowered her eyes and silently concealed the expression in her eyes. The people of Yangon City who were onlookers were finally awake at this time. The bet about the medical skills competition in the Chengelfang. That's a bet that almost everyone in Yangon City took part in. Many people even bet almost all their belongings on Fairy Zhishi. But the result of the current competition was that Fairy Zhishi actually lost. Suddenly, there was a deathly silence under the noisy city wall. Chapter 995. The show is about to begin. Li Zhenyu clutched his painful chest, took a step forward, stared fiercely at City Lord Zhuge with cold sweat on his forehead, and said coldly, "City Lord Zhuge, you better think about what you should do and what not to do. Don't forget about Zhishi's identity, Shuling's identity, and what is my identity is. Even if you are the Lord of Yangon City, can you afford to offend all of us, the Doctors Association and Yunlan sect? What's more, you have also seen that the people of Yangon City also hope that Zhishi will win, don't they?" Fine sweat exuded on Zhuge Feng's forehead. His eyes were filled with struggle. Zhuge Xiaotian was just standing next to Zhuge Feng. After hearing Li Zhenyu threatening his father like this, he felt his anger surged up and he almost rushed out, but Zhuge Feng held him back tightly. Zhuge Feng used to stay in the external hall of the Doctors Association, so he knew better than anyone how powerful the Doctors Association was. Offending them would never end well. What's more, Li Zhenyu and Yunlan sect couldn't be offended easily as well. For a while, Zhuge Feng was in a dilemma. Baihu looked at their secret interactions, and he suddenly laughed and raised the volume. "When I saw elderly, I suddenly remembered that there is something. I really want to let Lord Zhuge and all the people of Yangon City below take a look. It's a very interesting video." After speaking, Baihu suddenly took out a piece of silver talisman paper and injected spiritual power into it. The talisman paper burned. The clear image was also projected on the city wall, so that everyone could see clearly. Although the recording talisman was rare, everyone on Miluo continent still knew it. However, the recording talisman that Baihu took out shocked everyone. Generally, the images recorded by the recording talisman were silent. However, when the recording talisman in Baihu's hand burned, in addition to the clear image, it even played Elder Li's voice. That's right, when the recording talisman was played, it was Li Zhenyu's voice. The video also showed two people who were very familiar to Yangon City people, Li Zhenyu and Master Yuehua. "Master Yuehua, have you ever heard that rumors are like a flame blown by the wind?" Li Zhenyu trembled abruptly when he heard this sentence of his own voice. He said in disbelief, How do you have such a thing?" A leisurely smile appeared on Baihu's face. He raised one finger to his lips and whispered, "Shoo. Elderly, be quiet, don't disturb everyone in Yangon City watching this good show. After all, elderly, you know better than anyone else that the show is about to begin." Li Jinyu was stunned on the spot. Staring at the image broadcast, he only felt cold and sweaty in his palms. And as the video played, upon hearing the dialogue between Master Yuehua and Li Jinyu, the faces of everyone under the city wall were filled with indignation. It turned out that, without them knowing, Master Yuehua was threatened and humiliated by Li Jinyu. Even if this was not enough, when Master Yuehua was about to successfully refine the pills just now, it was also Li Jinyu who backstabbed Master Yuehua. Yes, at this moment, everyone believed that Li Jinyu must have backstabbed Master Yuehua just now. Chapter 996, Shiyu 1. Among all the people present, the most angry, most regretful and painful was none other than Zhuge Feng. Especially when he finally heard that Li Jinyu threatened Master Yuehua with him and his son's future and Master Yuehua had to compromise regretfully, he covered his face to hide his hot tears. As Master Yuehua's best friend, he knew that his friend had been anxious and desperate to lose the ability of pill refining, but he couldn't do anything for him. After Zhuge Xiaotian fell ill, it was this friend who studied ancient books for him day and night to look for treatment methods and identified the doctors who came to apply. It was this friend who was obviously upright, but he was humiliated, condemned, and even threatened again and again for him. And what did Zhuge Feng do for this close friend? When he was questioned by Yangon City's doctors, when Li Jinyu embarrassed him, he, the city lord of Yangon City, did nothing for him. Even facing Shiyu, Master Yuehua's benefactor, he himself had many doubts, and he didn't even have the courage to declare his victory. The recording talisman had finished playing, and Zhuge Feng only felt a surge of blood in his chest. He took a step forward and said loudly, "I, Zhuge Feng, as the lord of Yangon City, announced that in the medical skill competition between Fairy Jishi and Shiyu, Shiyu won. Regardless of whether Xiaotian's illness will relapse in the future, I'm willing to take responsibility for the results I announce at this moment, and I will never renege." Zhuge Xiaotian did not hesitate and took a big step forward to say with a hoarse voice, "I can also guarantee that Miracle Healer Shi's treatment plan is definitely more correct than Fairy Jishi. My body has been healed. If I still have any illness after that, it has absolutely nothing to do with Miracle Healer Shi." When Zhuge Feng and his son said these words, they not only announced the victory of Shiyu, but they also cut off all the shady methods of Li Jinyu or Ren Shuling afterward. In other words, this medical skill competition, which was supposed to have a disparity in strength, ended up in a way that was completely beyond everyone's expectations. A young man from the small country, Jinling Kingdom, Shiyu, who had no doctor's rank, actually defeated Fairy Jishi of the 6th rank doctor. There was no chance for Fairy Jishi to come back at all. Lu Jishi's face turned pale. Listening to the doctors, who had flattered her, were now willing to surround Shiyu and say congratulations to her. Looking at Nangong Yu's cold starry eyes full of dotting and affection when looking at Shiyu. Lu Jishi felt pressure in her chest, making her almost want to crush her teeth. The person who was even more resentful than Lu Jishi was Li Jinyu. He didn't expect that the words he threatened Master Yuehua would be recorded with a recording talisman. Even more, he did not expect that it was his own mistake that caused Jishi to completely lose the medical skills competition and suffered such humiliation from Zhuge Feng and his son. His eyes flashed with a sinister ray and he stared at Zhuge Feng and his son like a poison-quenched ice blade. These two ignorant wastes dare to let Jishi fall into such an embarrassing situation. I will never let them go. Thinking like this, Li Jinyu pressed his hands firmly on the fence of the city wall, almost crushing the fence made of green stone. Chapter 997, The Unusual Li Jinyu. But suddenly, Li Jinyu felt a dullness in his chest, making him almost breathless. Immediately afterward, even his head became chaotic as if it was shrouded in mist. He didn't know where he was and what he did. In the depths of his heart, a violent anger surged up, burning his sanity and making him hysterical. Ren Shuling, who was standing next to him, thought his illness had relapsed when she saw him trembling slightly. She supported him and asked, "Cousin, are you okay? Go lost. Don't touch me." Before Ren Shuling's words were finished, Li Jinyu suddenly let out an angry growl, throwing away Ren Shuling with a face of disgust. Ren Shuling was dumbfounded after being thrown away by Li Jinyu. Li Jinyu laughed and said, "Ren Shuling, you ugly and stupid woman are actually my cousin. I feel ashamed to even think of it. If you weren't the junior of Jishi, you think I will care for you?" Li Jinyu's voice was full of arrogance. Everyone could hear his words clearly. Ren Shuling only felt an impact in her head. She was stupefied immediately. The man in front of her was obviously her who pampered and cared for her, but he had become so strange that she couldn't recognize him at all. But Li Jinyu seemed unaware. He still continued to say, "Shiyu, you lowly bastard, you dare to provoke Jishi. You are simply tiring of living. Do you know who Jishi is? She is my goddess, the woman whom I dare not to blaspheme even in my dream. And you dare to embarrass her. It's all to blame Yuehua, the old fool Yuehua. If it weren't for him not believing in Jishi's medical skills and brought you bitch into the city lord's mansion, Jishi wouldn't have to suffer such humiliation. Hee, so, I spread rumors in Yangon City. I not only spread news about you, but I also let people leak the facts that Yuehua can't pill refining. Ha ha ha, how stupid the people in Yangon City are. As soon as the news spread, they believed them all. They even cursed that old fool Yuehua. I know how much Yuehua cares about Yangon City. Letting him hear the people in Yangon City scold him is the best punishment for him. Ha ha ha, and I can even use Zhuge Feng to threaten him and let him listen to me to frame Shiyu. This is simply 3 birds with 1 stone. As long as it succeeds, Shiyu will be ruined. He will not be able to stand in the way of Jishi." But, Li Jinyu was saying excitedly, but at this point, his face was distorted. "But why? The development of things was not as I expected. Shiyu actually succeeded in pill refining, and Zhuge Xiaotian is also cured. Why? Why can someone whom Jishi can't cure, but Shiyu, a nobody, can cure? God is unfair. And you?" He looked fiercely at Zhuge Feng and Zhuge Xiaotian and his son, screaming sternly. "Zhuge Feng, Zhuge Xiaotian, you dare to announce that Jishi lost to Shiyu in public. Do you think Yunlan's sect and the Doctors' Association will let you go? Stop dreaming. You all shall wait. Even if Zhuge Xiaotian's illness is cured, you will never end up well. Just wait for the revenge of me and Jishi." Chapter 998, Gone Insane. There was an uproar in the audience. They were shock and anger one after another. If Li Jinyu's words just now only made everyone shocked, puzzled, and questioned, then his last words made everyone present infuriated. This was no longer a question of winning or losing a bet. It was not the anger that could be quelled by how many crystal stones they lost or win. Although Zhuge Feng's cultivation was not high, he was a very good city lord for the people of Yangon City. But now, their city lord was being threatened publicly. He was just telling the truth, but he and his family's safety couldn't be guaranteed. How can Li Jinyu say that? How can he be so arrogant? Is it just because of the power of the Yunlan sect and the Doctors' Association? Lu Jishi's face at this time could no longer be described as ugly, but his face was extremely gloomy. Her voice was like an ice bead, and she said coldly, "Li Jinyu, stop saying. Did someone do something to you that you don't even have a sane mind now?" "How am I not having a sane mind?" Li Jinyu suddenly took a step forward and grabbed Lu Jishi's hand with a frantic expression. "Jishi, I told you before, I'm willing to do anything for you, even if you let me go murder someone, I will not hesitate. I'm willing to sweep all the obstacles before you." "Shut up." Lu Jishi trembled with anger, and a burst of smoke burst out of his hand. The white smoke floated to Li Jianyu's cheek, and he was in a daze as if he was about to fall. However, a powerful burning force surged up in his chest, making him awake again. This time, his gaze was even more scorching, and his expression even more mad. He stretched out his hand to hug Lu Zixi and said hoarsely, "Zixi, I really like you so much. You have always been the goddess in my heart. I want to hug you like this even in my dream and kiss you." With that, he was about to kiss Lu Zixi's fragrant lips. Lu Zixi only felt a burst of nausea rushing to her heart. She couldn't bear it anymore. A surging spiritual power was released as she pushed. Li Jianyu seemed to have completely lost the power of resistance. He staggered a few steps being pushed by Lu Zixi, then he fell from the city wall. Bang! With a loud noise, Li Jianyu fell under the wall with an unsightly pose, let out a moan and fainted. Although the city walls of the Yangon City's city lord's mansion were not too high, the martial artists fell down without channeling spiritual power would break a few bones. The citizens below were all taken aback by the incident. When they saw Li Jianyu's embarrassed and unsightly posture, they all burst into laughter. On the city wall, Lu Zixi and Ren Shuling finally couldn't stay any longer. They turned around and left with cold faces. No one ever looked at Li Jianyu, who had passed out in pain. Instead, the people of Yangon City underneath pointed at him and laughed at his vicious actions and his miserable end. Little Egg, Little Golden Dragon, and Mo Xiaodu, who stood not far behind Heshi, turned their admiring eyes to Shaoli. Little Egg held up his small paw and exclaimed, "Sister Shaoli, you are so amazing. You're even better than Mom. You can make the villain surnamed Li speak the truth without using medicine." Chapter 999, You're Getting Stronger, yeah. Mo Xiaotu was full of enthusiasm. "Shaoli, can you teach me too? If I can master it, I can ask my junior apprentice to obediently tell the location of his treasure." Shaoli's snowy smiley face was slightly red, and her face was full of shy smiles, "Because my talent skills are relatively special, so after cultivation to the third level, I can release a unique smell that can confuse people's minds and enlarge the emotions in people's hearts 10 times or even 100 times. Shaoli was a 9-tailed silver fox. All the spiritual pets around Heshi know about it, but Mo Xiaotu didn't. Coupled with the special and rare nature of the 9-tailed silver fox, she naturally wouldn't reveal her identity. But, it's not all my credit. Shaoli took a peek at Nangong Yu, who was standing next to Heshi, before whispering, "Because the beautiful brother, no. It's Master hurt him first so that my charm can work. Otherwise, with his cultivation, it isn't easy to confuse his mind." "That's already great." Little Golden Dragon admired, then he revealed a sinister-een smile. Hee, they really wanted to retaliate against Zhuge Feng and Zhuge Xiaotian afterward. Although I'm not interested in Zhuge Feng's life or death, it's not so good if it involves Master Yuehua. Now Li Jianyu spoke out their secret conspiracy in front of everyone in Yangon City. With the virtue of fishing for fame of Fairy Zixi, she will not hesitate to save the lives of Zhuge's father and son. Now Li Jianyu was ashamed publicly, and he even disgusted Fairy Zixi, and there is no sequelae. Ha. Shaoli, you are really amazing. Shaoli was delighted. She glanced at Heshi with joy eyebrows, then she quietly ran to Heshi's side and grabbed her clothes. Her eyes were full of happiness. "It's great that I can also contribute to Miss." Heshi felt the little girl approaching, and she lowered her head and stroked her hair softly. She said softly, "Shaoli, you did a good job just now. You're getting stronger." Shaoli's eyes lit up, and the already bright and beautiful face seemed to be radiant because of Heshi's praise. She was obviously just at a young age, but her eyes already had a fascinating charm. That was the charm that only the 9-tailed silver fox could have. Heshi moved slightly in his heart, and put the little girl in his arms, and said in his heart that she must protect Shaoli and never let her suffer any more harm. Shaoli was hugged into Hushi's warm embrace. Her body stiffened slightly, but she relaxed immediately, fully enjoying the moment of happiness. It's really great to be Miss Side all the time. The only depressed person was Nan Gongyu. Why do these little things like to stick around Sheer so much, occupying her attention? Really annoying. At this time, the medical skills competition between Lu Jishi and Shi Yu was finally over. The people of Yangon City below were also preparing to leave. Suddenly, a doctor on the wall couldn't help but speak. "Mr. Shi, are you selling this cloud marrow pill? What is the price?" Just this sentence stopped the martial artists of Yangon City who had planned to leave. Chapter 1000, Not comparable to him, yeah. There is also the inestimable value cloud marrow pills that can help people to advance. There are a total of 77 cloud marrow pills. Hushi smiled slightly and said without hesitation, "The person who really refines these cloud marrow pills is Master Yuehua, so this furnace of pills belongs to him. If you want to buy it, just ask him." Master Yuehua's eyes widened suddenly. "What? They belong to me? How can this be? Absolutely no. Absolutely no way." Hushi simply ignored Master Yuehua's panic, and she said lightly, "Oh, right, remember to pay for the raw materials. With the 10 best quality flame spirit pills from last time, a total of 3 million crystals. Remember to pay it back early. Otherwise, I will count interest." 3 million crystals. It is only 3 million crystals. It is not even the value of a cloud marrow pill. Shi Yu's words seemed indifferent and ruthless, but in fact, she gave him all the cloud marrow pills. Master Yuehua only felt hot and humid in his eyes. His lips opened and closed countless times, trying to speak, but he couldn't say a word. The onlookers widened their eyes when hearing Hushi's words. Then, everyone looked at Master Yuehua with gazes full of envy, jealousy and hatred. Just because Master Yuehua helped Shi Yu a few times, he actually gave Master Yuehua a total of 77 cloud marrow pills. If I knew early, I would also speak up for Shi Yu, and maybe I could still get a few pills. There were a few doctors, who were really unwilling, even couldn't help protesting to Hushi, "Mr. Shi, even if Master Yuehua recovers the ability to refine pill, he is only a 4th-ranked doctor. We are 6th-ranked doctors. Even our cultivation is higher than him. Instead of giving the cloud marrow pills to Master Yuehua, you might as well give us a few so that these cloud marrow pills won't be waste." Hushi smiled slightly and looked at him with a cold gaze. "Do you really think you are qualified to compare with Master Yuehua? What do you mean by this? I'm a 6th-ranked doctor. Yuehua is just, in my eyes, doctor rank is nothing." Hushi interrupted him coldly, "And Master Yuehua has something you all don't have. It's something you can never compare to him." After speaking, she didn't stay any longer. She took Nan Gongyu's hand and quickly walked down the city wall. Before leaving, she only left a sentence to Zhuge Feng, "City Lord Zhuge, don't forget to give me the agreed reward. We came for the Divine Soul Jade. I don't take anything else, but I must get the Divine Soul Jade." Of course, the bets in Changle gambling house must not be forgotten. As soon as Hushi left, the people around her naturally followed her and left quickly. For a while, Zhuge Feng and his son and the group of doctors who looked at each other with ugly faces were left on the wall. The 6th-ranked doctors who had just been reprimanded by Hushi couldn't help saying ruthlessly, "That damn kid, how can he say that to me? How can he say that I will never be better than Yuehua? Doctor Who, do you know why Yuehua's spiritual power collapsed and lost the ability to refine pill?" Zhuge Feng suddenly took a step forward and coldly interrupted him. However, without waiting for Doctor Who's answer, Zhuge Feng looked at the densely packed citizen under the city wall with sharp and deep gazes. "Do you know? Why Master Yuehua would lose all future and hope at his glorious period of his lifetime. Chapter 1001, A Blessing in Disguise. There was silence under the city wall, and everyone was holding their breath for Zhuge Feng's answer. It is because of the plague. Zhuge Feng said firmly, 10 years ago, everyone in the Yangon city was on the verge of life and death, and the plague was raging. Yuehua regarded Yangon city as his home and all of you as his relatives, so even if he had to sacrifice everything, he wanted to save all of you. He tried to get himself infected with the plague, tried various medicines to restrain the spread of the plague, and in the end, he finally found medicinal pills to treat the plague. However, in his own attempts, his dantian suffered damage. He could no longer condense the spiritual fire, and he could no longer refine pill. Under the city wall, everyone in Yangon city looked disbelief as if they were struck by lightning. Zhuge Feng continued, he sacrificed his own future and his talent as a doctor for all of you. But, how did you treat him? You spread the rumors released by Li Jinyu to hurt him and slander him? You ask your own conscience, can you face yourself and your relatives who survived 10 years ago? Someone in the crowd was sobbing low, and everyone's eyes were filled with regret and self-blame. Master Yuehua suddenly took a step forward, pressed Zhuge Feng's shoulder and said with a hoarse voice, Brother Zhuge, don't say any more. I don't feel pain. You see, didn't I get a blessing in disguise? If she didn't see through my dantian was heard in a glance, I wouldn't believe in him. If I didn't believe in him, Xiaotian's disease wouldn't be treated, and I wouldn't get so many cloud marrow pill. I don't feel regret at all. Instead, I feel very good, very content. He looked at the people under the city wall and said loudly, Yangon city is my home, and everything I do is my willingness, and I never regret it. If you really want to thank me Yuehua, then please pass on all the thanks to me to Shiyu. It was Shiyu who made me reborn and qualified to be a doctor again. Shiyu's kindness to me, even if I spend my entire life, I can't repay it. Master Yuehua, my life was saved by you more than 10 years ago. Shiyu is your benefactor and he is equivalent to our benefactor. I'm willing to repay Miracle Healer Shi on behalf of Master Yuehua. As long as Miracle Healer Shi has any order, Zhao Ting will execute complaint. Me too. From then on, Miracle Healer Shi is our most distinguished guest in Yangon City. Yes, if anyone dares to slander Miracle Healer Shi again, I will never let him go. Heshi, who had just walked down the city wall, suddenly heard the earth-shaking shouts inside and outside the city wall. Although the shouts were not uniform at all, they were all mixed with her name, Miracle Healer Shi. She was taken aback for a moment, and she couldn't help but shook her head and chuckled. Nangong Yu on the side stretched out his hand to bring her into her arms, and he whispered in a slightly sour tone, Little girl, I really want to hide you. Why no matter where you go, you will be the focus of everyone's attention. They can't look away from you at all. Heshi grabbed his hand and smiled slyly, What? Is Lord King of Hell jealous? Nangong Yu stretched out his hand, scratched the tip of her nose and hugged her tighter into his arms. Sheer, I'm just afraid, the better you are, the more afraid I will be that one day you will leave me. Chapter 1002, Brag Heshi heard the anxiety and nervousness in his tone, and she couldn't help laughing. She poked his chest in annoyance. Your Royal Highness King of Hell, the daughter of the President of the Doctors Association likes you secretly, I'm not jealous yet. Why are you being jealous first? I'm excellent. Humph. You reached the soul-splitting stage at the age of 20. Can anyone on Miluo continent be able to beat you, King of Hell? Nangong Yu was startled slightly, then he couldn't help letting out a deep laugh. He lowered his head and kissed her lightly before he smiled smugly, Well, Sheer is right. I'm so excellent, which woman in this world is worthy of me? Even Sheer barely meets my standard. Barely? He kicked the person away, and said with an annoyed smile, "Stop bragging." The clear and pleasant laughter spread throughout the entire Lanxiang courtyard. It was filled with endless happiness and sweetness. However, this kind of laughter was like poison in Lu Zhixi's ears in the east wing of the Lanxiang courtyard, making her clench her fists tightly. Although on the wall, Zhuge Feng had announced the outcome of the match between He and Fairy Zhixi's medical skills. However, in the past 3 days, people kept coming to inquire about Zhuge Xiaotian's condition. After all, Fairy Zhixi almost cured Zhuge Xiaotian on that day, but in the end, the disease had relapsed not more than 3 days. Even Fairy Zhixi and Ren Shuling, although full of shame and resentment, still stayed in Lanxiang courtyard. Everyone wanted to see the real result of the medical skills competition. However, after 3 days, most of the people who participated in the gamble were disappointed. Because Zhuge Xiaotian's condition was getting better and better, people could even see him walking in the sun on the streets of Yangon City. His face was ruddy and full of energy. How could he look strangely ill? On this day, He was enjoying a leisurely tea and playing chess with Nan Gongyu in the west wing of Lanxiang courtyard. Qing Long, Bai Hu, Gu Lufeng and others also spent rare and leisurely days in the yard. Zhuge Feng had promised to bring Divine Soul Jade to He tonight, so if nothing happened, after tomorrow, they planned to leave Yangon City when they received the gamble funds from Yangon City. Suddenly, a few people rushed in from the courtyard, led by Ren Shuling and Li Zhenyu, who was still covered with gauze. Li Zhenyu fell from the city wall that day. Although he would not die, he broke 3 ribs and fractured his left leg. It could be said that he suffered a lot. In particular, his reputation nowadays was even more ruined. People walking on the street were pointing to him, and his sect even used inscribed jade slip to announce that his position as the sword-holding elder was removed. Li Zhenyu's life went smoothly whether in his family or in Yunlan sect, since when did he suffer such a huge setback? During these few days of recuperating, he really hated Shiyu into her bones. However, before he could think of a more sinister plot to frame Shiyu, his first gave him an astounding news. This was also the reason why he had to come to Lanxiang courtyard with his aching body. He was really surprised when he saw Li Zhenyu and Ren Shuling. They looked extremely anxious and angry, and there were still a lot of people behind them. Such a momentum, they seemed like they were here to collect debts. Chapter 1003, Drive Away. Before He asked them why, Ren Shuling rushed up in a vigorous step and cursed, "Shiyu, what have you done to us? Isn't it enough for us to be so miserable by you in the past few days? You? Why do you want to drag us down like this?" He raised her eyebrows and asked a little surprised, "What did I do? You're still pretending to be innocent." Ren Shuling gritted his teeth. Today, all the medicine halls in the Tiangang Kingdom have posted announcements, saying that the medicinal pills in the pharmacies will no longer be sold to my Ren family and my cousins. Li family, aren't all these done by you? He's eyes flashed. Before she spoke, Gu Lufeng, who was drinking tea on the side, stood up slowly and said, "I announced this. Shiyu really doesn't know. You can ask me if you have any questions." "It's you. What are you? You dare to stop those pharmacies from selling medicines to our Ren family from now on? Do you think I would be afraid of such threats?" Gu Liufeng's peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly. His eyes were full of coldness. "From the moment you insulted Shiyu, you should have this kind of awareness. Or do you think that Shiyu can be bullied by you at will? When you were arrogant, we watched you arrogantly. Now that you fucked up, don't come to blame us. Your loser look is really too unsightly." Ren Shuling's face flushed red, looking at Gu Lufeng and He fiercely as if she tore them in pieces the next moment. Lu Zhishi, who still lived in the east wing of Lanxiang courtyard, rushed over when she heard the news. Seeing Ren Shuling's infuriated look, she quickly asked, "Shuling, what happened?" As soon as Ren Shuling heard Lu Zhishi's question, Her eyes became red as she said in a sobbing tone, "Senior sister, they are bullying us. Not only they disgraced you publicly, they even want to drive away my Ren family." Drive away? Seeing Lu Jishi coming out, Li Jinyu hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Jishi, you don't know this yet. Early this morning, all the pharmacies in Yangon City published an announcement, listing a series of names, including me, Shuling, Dr. Jiang, Peng San and others. Those pharmacies announced that they will blacklist us and our family from now on and no longer provide medicinal pills to us. Moreover, it is not just Yangon City, but all medicine halls in the Tiangang Kingdom today all posted this announcement." "What?" Lu Jishi exclaimed, "How is this possible? Why would these pharmacies do this?" "It's because of these bitches." Ren Shuling screamed, "They threatened the pharmacies to drive us away." Lu Jishi looked even more startled. "Just them? How could they threaten all the pharmacies in the Tsangming Kingdom?" Li Jinyu and Ren Shuling's expressions were distorted. Gu Lufeng took a step forward and smiled slowly. "I can answer this question for them. Because 3 days ago, I just issued orders to all the branches and supply points of Xingda Hall in Miluo Continent. All pharmacies that want to cooperate with Xingda Hall must blacklist the families I listed and never provide medicinal pills to them. Otherwise, Xingda Hall will stop cooperating with these pharmacies. It's that simple." Lu Jishi's breathing stopped slightly and her eyes widened. Chapter 1004, Bully, Lu Yin, who followed Lu Jishi, had already laughed and said, "Are you kidding? Xingda Hall, what Xingda Hall? A small pharmacy can actually threaten all pharmacies in the Tiangang Kingdom? Do you think your medicinal pills are the legendary best quality pill? You even learned from the Doctors Association to act arrogant. Just look at yourself whether you have this ability." Lu Yin's laughter was full of sarcasm and contempt. What she said was taken for granted. But everyone present, including Lu Jishi, didn't laugh at that, but everyone looked unsightly. "You don't know if Xingda Hall is capable of this, then you should know whether I have it, right?" Just after Lu Yin's words, a clear male voice sounded at the entrance of Lanxiang Courtyard. "Please rest assured Shiyu and Brother Gu. Brother Gu's list has been notified to each branch of the Qingxia sect and passed to all pharmacies in the Tiangang Kingdom. I can guarantee that they will execute accordingly." While talking, a tall and slender man in a green robe appeared at the gate of the courtyard. As soon as Shen Qingxua saw this person, she immediately hurried forward happily. "Uncle, why are you here? I miss you so much." The person who came was Shen Sen of the Qingxia sect and the uncle of Shen Qingxua. Shen Sen knocked his niece on the forehead and smiled angrily. "Miss me a lot? Why didn't I notice it? I thought you were so happy that you were reluctant to come back." Shen Qingxua's face flushed, then she shook Shen Sen's sleeve and said cutely, "Uncle, why are you like this? We finally meet, but you still criticize me." "But uncle, why are you here?" Shen Sen patted Shen Qingxua's hand before smiling and said, "Chui'er, you shouldn't be the one who says that. Mr. Shi is our most important guest of the Qingxia sect. He came to Tsangming Kingdom and you didn't even notify me to let our Qingxia sect welcome him. As a result, I got the news from Brother Gu." Shen Qingxua's cheeks were even more flushed, and she did not speak for a long time. "I of course wanted to inform grandfather and my parents in Qingxia sect that Shiyu had come to the Tsangming Kingdom. However, when they meet Shiyu, wouldn't they also meet Gu Lufeng?" At the thought of such a scene, she couldn't help feeling anxious. She just wanted to postpone such a day a little bit later. However, before Shen Qingxua could answer, Lu Jishi frowned and said, "Elder Shen, what did you mean?" Shen Sen seemed to see Lu Jishi at this moment, and he couldn't help being startled. It turned out to be Fairy Jishi. "Nice to meet you." Lu Jishi couldn't help feeling aggrieved when she was being ignored by Shen Sen just now. When is my sense of existence so low? Or is this Shen Sen deliberately pretending to disgrace me? At this time, seeing Shen Sen, the people who had come in with Ren Shuling and Li Jianyu couldn't help but surround him, shouting outrageously. Elder Shen, as the leader of the Qingxia sect, of the Tsangming kingdom, how can you bully us like this? Yeah. Our Peng family and Qingxia sect have no grievances and no grudges. Why do you forbid us to buy medicine in the pharmacies? Elder Shen, when did Qingxia sect start to listen to a little Xingdahal? Is Xingdahal worthy of that? It's just a pharmacy in a small country like Jinling Kingdom. Are the people of the Qingxia sect going crazy? They actually listen to a small pharmacy. Chapter 1005. Revenge. Shen Sen couldn't help but raised her eyebrows when he heard this, and said in surprise, "Oh? Didn't everyone here know? The medicinal pills sold by Qingxia sect are all from Xingdahal. In addition, did you wrong me Qingxia sect and Xingdahal? The order issued is that you are not allowed to buy medicinal pills supplied by Qingxia sect and Xingdahal. We didn't restrict you for buying ordinary medicinal pills." As he said, he smiled gently and nodded toward Li Jianyu. He said with a leisurely expression, "By the way, elderly, since you are here, there is no need for me to find you again. Elderly, please tell your great elder that the Meridian's cleansing pill and the best spirit healing pill pre-ordered for next month by the Li family can only be cancelled due to the news announced this time." Afterward, he glanced at Ren Shuling with a gentle smile. "Oh, it turns out that Miss Ren is here too. That's great. Please go back and tell your father that the bone muscle enhancement pill he ordered, we Qingxia sect also won't be unable to provide. Of course, we will double the deposit you paid." Shen Sen's remarks were gentle and polite, but they sounded like thunder in the ears of everyone present. All the people present were instigated by Li Jianyu, and they more or less participated in the action to frame He. Under Nangong Yu's instructions, Bai Hu found out the identities and origins of these people almost immediately. Then he gave the list to Gu Lufeng. When these people just received the news that Xingdahal blacklisted their family, they even laughed like Lu Yin. Just a mere Xingdahal, they really think they are something? Huh, they actually want to blacklist us? What a joke. But, soon, they couldn't laugh anymore. Because after the news was announced, they and their families, no matter which pharmacies they went to, were told that they could only buy ordinary medicinal pills on the market. They couldn't buy a single one of the best quality medicinal pills provided by Qingxia sect. Even some families, who had been waiting for half a month and finally got the chance to pre-order, were rejected by the pharmacy with just one sentence. At this time, they panicked. So after learning about the relationship between Xingdahal and Shiyu, they followed Ren Shuling and Li Jianyu early in the morning to question them. Ren Shuling's expression was even more distorted at this time. She was so angry that her entire body trembled. The bone muscle enhancement pill ordered by her father was originally intended for her and his younger brother. Originally, Qingxia sect was willing to let them pre-order earlier because she was the daughter of the Doctors Association's president. Her father had been praising her after he knew that the bone muscle enhancement pill would arrive. His brother was also full of expectations. She herself was planning to use bone muscle enhancement pill to improve her meridians, then she would break through the bottleneck of the gold core stage. But now, not only had her original plan was ruined, but she would also be blamed by her family when she returned. How could she accept such an ending? You are too shameless. You even use your power to revenge. Gu Lufeng couldn't help but shook his head and laughed. "Miss Ren, are you joking? Revenge? We can decide whom should our pills sell to. Is it that we can't even decide on this?" Chapter 1006. Don't be so ruthless. Although everyone knew that the best quality pill came from Xingdahal, few people really knew the relationship between Qingxia sect and Xingdahal. But now they knew very clearly. Everyone knew that Xingdahal was Shiyu's private property. All the medicinal pills belonged to him. He could of course decide who should the medicinal pills sell to. Everyone in Lanshan courtyard looked at each other with unsightly and panicky faces. At this moment, Heshi was holding a chess piece in her hand, turning it lightly. She glanced over Gu Lufeng, Bai Hu, and finally Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu's eyes were gentle. He was holding a black chess piece, and he placed it gently with a leisurely and contented expression. Heshi was about to put down the white chess piece in her hand, then she suddenly heard Lu Jishi saying, "Mr. Shi, although you are the young master of Xingde Hall, you use your authority to offend so many families for your own private gain. Isn't this behavior too rash? Don't forget, these medicinal pills are not made by you. Have you consulted your master?" Heshi smiled slightly and put down the white chess piece, then she stood up and smiled with her hands behind her back. "Of course, my master will have no objection. If Fairy Jishi doesn't believe it, you can go to him and ask." After that, she stopped looking at Lu Jishi, but she smiled slyly at Nan Gongyu. "It's too noisy here. The yard is full of annoying people. Let's forget about this game. We will play again next time." After she finished speaking, she waved her sleeves, turned around and left. As soon as Heshi left, the corners of Nan Gongyu's mouth slowly curled up. He also left the place. However, Bai Hu, Qing Wan and others held their fists to refrain themselves from laughing out. They all entered the room together. "Princess, you are so bad. What master is no master at all? All medicinal pills are refined by Shiyu alone." Princess actually asked Fairy Jishi to ask her master. Who should Fairy Jishi ask? For a while, the people in the Lanshan courtyard walked away completely. Only those who looked furious, unwilling and helpless were left here. A hint of fear and panic surged in everyone's mind. Especially those who were instigated by Li Zhenyu to turn against Shiyu. They glared furiously at Li Zhenyu, and they were full of regret. If they knew this would happen, they wouldn't be tempted by Li Zhenyu's little prophet to go against Shiyu. Gu Liufeng's move was so ruthless. What a collective punishment. If it was just themselves being retaliated against, then it's not a big problem. If the family was implicated, would they have a good life in the future? Now, they wanted to kowtow to beg for mercy, but would the other party still give them this opportunity? Seeing that Heshi and others had left, Shenzhen shook her head with a smile, cupped her fist toward everyone in the courtyard, and prepared to leave. However, Lu Jishi took a step forward and blocked Shenzhen's path. "Elder Shen, don't be so ruthless. Qingshe's sect has always been righteous and chivalrous. Can't Elder Shen forgive everyone here?" Shenzhen stopped and said with a gentle expression, "Fairy Jishi, as I said just now, all the medicinal pills of Qingshe's sect are provided by Xingde Hall. Since Xingde Hall is unwilling to sell to these families, I can only act accordingly. Please forgive me, Fairy Jishi." Chapter 1007, Coercion and Bribery. Lu Jishi's eyes flashed and slowly said, "Elder Shen, can Qingshe's sect only work with Xingde Hall?" Shenzhen was taken aback, staring at Lu Jishi with scorching eyes. What does Fairy Jishi mean? Lu Jishi showed a deep smile on her face. Jishi knows that Qingshe's sect has not been easy to buy medicinal pills in the past few years, so it has cooperated with Xingde Hall. But what if the Doctors' Association is willing to cooperate with Qingshe's sect? "Elder Shen, are you willing to consider changing partners?" Shenzhen frowned slightly. He was about to shook his head to refuse. Lu Jishi said in a low voice, "Elder Shen, please consider carefully before answering. It is said that the medicinal pills that Xingde Hall can provide so far are only the 4th grade. Is Elder Shen sure that you don't need the help of the Doctors' Association in the future?" After speaking, she paused before continuing, "I'm not asking Elder Shen and Xingde Hall to stop cooperating, but I hope Elder Shen can persuade Xingde Hall to cancel this decision so that everyone present can continue to buy medicinal pills freely. If Elder Shen agrees, then the Doctors' Association and Qingshe's sect are allies, otherwise, if Qingxia sect asks the Doctors Association in the future for help, Zhishi will not know what will happen. This was the first time that Lu Zhishi really threatened a person. Because of her inexperience, her voice even trembled slightly. And her mood was very unhappy. It seemed that all the bad things in her life appeared here for the first time, and it was all because of one person, Shiyu. As soon as Lu Zhishi said this, all the people looked hopeful. Compared with Xingde Hall and Qingxia sect, even a fool knew that Qingxia sect had more say. Maybe, Xingde Hall was one of Qingxia sect's industries. Although Shinsen kept saying that Qingxia sect listened to Xingde Hall, none of them would believe it. Shiyu was just a kid who was at the foundation establishment stage. Shinsen was a master of the nascent soul stage. As long as Shinsen was willing, he must be able to convince Shiyu. However, Shinsen chuckled lightly without hesitation, sarcastically saying, "Fairy Zhishi is so funny. Even without Xingde Hall, Qingxia sect can't get those high-grade medicinal pills, right? Am I too old that I lose my memory? How many high-grade medicinal pills did the Doctors Association provide us Qingxia sect each year?" The supply of medicinal pills from the Feng family to Qingxia sect had been stuck for a long time. It was already good for them to have 10 pills, so what was the difference between offending and not offending? Not to mention, now with the support of the Xingde Hall, the disciple of the Qingxia sect were high-spirited and refreshed. They didn't have to be threatened by the Doctors Association anymore. Lu Zhishi suddenly squinted her eyes, approached Shinsen, and said in a voice that almost only two of them could hear, "Then if I say, as long as Qingxia sect is willing, our Doctors Association will provide all the medicinal pills of the Feng family's portion to the Shin family?" Shinsen's eyes widened suddenly, his face was full of disbelief. Lu Zhishi saw Shinsen's expression, and she smiled with satisfaction. She didn't believe that Shinsen could resist such a huge temptation. In fact, what she said to Shinsen today was not just for the sake of fighting with Shiyu. Since the successive incidents happened in the Feng family, the status of the Feng family in the Miluo continent had plummeted again and again. When Luli's sect was destroyed, the Feng family almost had no power. Chapter 1008, Can't Tell Good from Bad. Before Lu Zhishi left home, she had heard her father and the elders in the association discuss that they wanted to resupport a sect as the representative of the Doctors Association. If Feng family really disappointed them, they could use it to replace the Feng family. In Lu Zhishi's view, Qingxia sect's comprehensive strength even surpassed Feng family, and Qingxia sect could almost be regarded as the Shin family. If the Shin family could be supported as a puppet of the Doctors Association, it would obviously be more suitable than the current Feng family. However, to Lu Zhishi's expectation, Shinsen was just surprised for a moment before saying with a faint smile, "Thank you Fairy Zhishi for your kindness, but we have a good cooperation with Xingde Hall now, so I don't want to consider changing partner yet. If Fairy Zhishi has nothing else for me, then I'll leave first." After finishing speaking, he didn't even look at Lu Zhishi's reaction and didn't wait for Lu Zhishi to say anything, he just turned around and left. Lu Zhishi stood there with a stunned expression, looking at the back of Shinsen's resolute figure. She couldn't recover her senses for a long time. Rejected? Shinsen rejected? The conditions I offered is dreamed of by many families, but this man actually rejected? An unspeakable anger surged in Lu Zhishi's heart. This anger even made her unwilling and hated even more than her being ashamed by Shiyu in public. When is the dignified Doctors Association, in the eyes of others, inferior to Xingde Hall and Shiyu? Ren Shuling, who listened to their conversation, stomped her feet fiercely and cursed loudly, "What Qingxia sect's elder, I think he has a problem with his brain. He didn't even put our Doctors Association in his eyes. Really can't tell good from bad. Senior sister, there will always be times when they regret it." Lu Zhishi's eyes were dark, and the hands hanging beside her were clenched into fists. "That's right, I will definitely make all these people regret it." Lu Zhishi and Ren Shuling were full of anger, thinking about how to make Qingxia sect and Shiyu regret in the future. However, the people in the yard looked at each other in panic when they saw the result. Not long ago, Qingxia sect was also short of medicinal pills due to Feng family, and the cultivation among their disciples wasn't smooth. Many of the unsettled outer disciples even switched to other factions such as the Yunlan sect. However, they suddenly had a large amount of top and upper grade medicinal pills. Not only was there ample supply in the sect, but there was even a margin for public sale. Those disciplines that left the Qingxia sect were really regretful. Because now Qingxia sect not only inner disciples, but outer disciples would also get a certain amount of best quality pill every year. That was the best quality pill. It couldn't be bought even with money in the market out there. The large number of medicinal pills that Qingxia sect suddenly took out caused many discussions throughout Tiangang Kingdom. At the beginning, everyone guessed that a pill refining master suddenly appeared in Qingxia sect, but how could a pill refining master refine such a huge amount of medicinal pills? This was where most people were puzzled. Today, this mystery had finally been solved. It turned out that the medicinal pills of Qingxia sect were all provided by Xingda Hall. The little Xingda Hall could provide such a huge amount of best quality pills. What kind of power was behind them? Although the best quality pill was ridiculously high in price, the effect was amazing. Chapter 1009, Regret. Especially for people with average talents, taking some of the best quality pills could break through the bottleneck and give them the hope of advancing again. How can such horrible and powerful medicinal pills not make everyone yearn for and scramble to buy? It was okay if they hadn't tasted it before, but now that they had tasted the benefits, they suddenly say that they were not available. Wasn't this killing them? Thinking of this, the eyes of these people looking at Lu Zhishi and others with grievances. Of course, they hated Li Zhenyu more, but no one knew now that Li Zhenyu did all this for Lu Zhishi. Wasn't their predicaments caused by Lu Zhishi indirectly? Lu Zhishi's face turned green and white. I have always been the favored one since I was a child. I have always accepted praise from the others. The others only have envy and admiration in their eyes when seeing me. When did I see such treatment? All this is because of Shiyu. Lu Zhishi took a deep breath, and she put up a gentle and moving smile before apologized slightly. You can blame Zhishi for indirectly causing this to happen to you. I really feel sorry. I didn't expect that Mr. Shi and Elder Shen would be so ruthless. But, she paused. The apology on her face turned into self-confidence and comfort. However, don't worry. You are hated by Mr. Shi more or less because of me. To apologize, as long as you buy medicinal pills from the pharmacies under the Doctors Association, you will have an 80% discount. Ren Shuling nodded vigorously and said, yeah. Why should you be threatened by that bitch? Huh, who wants his medicinal pills? Is there still a shortage of medicinal pills in our Doctors Association? The people present looked at each other, but no one felt happy. They were still dejected. Even Ren Shuling and Li Zhenyu looked unsightly when they would be blamed by their families for not getting those best quality medicinal pills. Although there were many medicinal pills from the Doctors Association, how could those best quality pills be good? They heard that the Doctors Association bought a lot of this best quality pill and went back to study, but so far there was still no result. This result was expected. If the Doctors Association was capable of refining such magical medicinal pills, they wouldn't wait until now. Haze. They once again deeply regretted that they offended Shiyu for Fairy Zhishi. Early the next morning, Zhuge Feng sent Divine Soul Jade gratefully. He was very happy to get Divine Soul Jade. This was the purpose of their trip. With this Divine Soul Jade, she could restore Shaoqi's sanity a little bit. But Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng were happier than He. Because they got Divine Soul Jade, it meant that they won the bet that involved the entire people of Yangon City. What they were about to earn would be the wealth of the entire Yangon City. thinking about the dejected faces of those smug people who bet on fairy Jishi before, Bai Hu felt very delighted. The two walked leisurely all the way in the direction of Changelfang. When passing a pharmacy, an angry male voice came from inside. "Why don't you let me buy the best quality pill? I ordered the bone muscle enhancement pill months ago. It's finally my turn to buy it." That you're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.